Good afternoon, Tim. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Shabbar. I am good. Yes, I am less hot than I was because I've got a fan on in the background, which I hope you can't hear. Good.
So
Yeah. How are you?
I'm very well. It's Monday the 3rd of August. We're recording this. We're in the post-World Cup kind of, I would say some mild depression with no football on, and the start of the Premier League season still a couple of weeks away. So I'm in this sort of in-between phase where there's nothing really on at the moment that sporting-wise tickles my fancy.
That sounds very depressing. Go for a walk, go see some trees. I personally think football doesn't count till October.
Really?
Well, when I was a kid, I'm sure it started end of September, and now it gets earlier and earlier. And in reference to this podcast, I think it's all a massive money grab by Premier League and FIFA. So I think it's ludicrous that football starts in August, and I ignore it until end of September, pretty much.
Well, funnily enough, my niece is over from Canada, and I'm taking her to the Emirates to watch a pre-season friendly next week.
Well, actually, I'm taking my children to see a pre-season friendly next week as well. Yeah.
Nice.
I think we might be rambling a bit much, though. We should talk about meeting up for that.
Offline.
And I also have, my other news is I now have 2 cats living in the house. There's one of them.
For those
Totoro.
on YouTube.
You can see a little bit on YouTube. There's Totoro. So if you might see cats jumping on the desk, or I don't know if you're a fan of comical cat videos, I'm sure we'll be adding those to the podcast. Yeah.
YouTube Shorts are going to take a bit of a...
Yeah, the other one's hiding in a duvet at the moment, but I'm sure they'll be jumping on the screen fairly soon. What are we talking about today, Shabba? It's not football or cats or Canada or Arsenal pre-season. What are we talking about, and why are we talking about it?
So we've recently come off the back of our series on growth, coupled with a couple of episodes on power, and that was me on my quest of searching for answers, questioning the common narrative that I've sort of grown up with. And it's all been an external questioning of things that are going on outside. And we realized today that it's been a while since we've dived into what's going on in my world and the weird and wonderful stories around life and money that kind of were the origins of this podcast, with me exploring the things that were cropping up for me and how I interacted with them. So you thought it might be a good idea that we dive back into that type of podcast.
My telling of is that you just said you were angsting about buying a mattress, and it reminded me of some of our early episodes. So we thought we'd dive into it. But you do before we dive into the angst of buying a mattress or the angst for you, you make an important connection. And whether you're a new or a long-time listener, I'd like to emphasize this connection. It's true that we spent, I think, the last 4 episodes talking about bigger picture stuff. We did a mini series a couple of months ago about work and the nature of work and the work system and how that impacts us personally and our personal choices about life. And again, recently we did this one more about questioning the idea of growth and consumerism and the bigger picture. And what's important to say is, when we're talking about unconscious psychology and the unconscious psychology of money, which is really the key for this podcast, the theme of this podcast, we need to start to see how the very same dynamics, the unconscious habits or blind spots, play out on apparently small personal things like buying a mattress, buying socks, booking a hotel, or whatever, arguing about a bill, or spending money on a wedding, and exactly the same dynamics that go on there that make those things feel sometimes stuck or emotional or difficult or confusing or paralyzing are the dynamics that, when we all do them or they multiply, create this global system. And so I don't want to apologize for going from looking at the story of growth and capitalism and consumerism straight back to buying a mattress. And I wouldn't want anyone listening to think, what are these guys doing? Are they looking at the big problems of the world, or are they dealing with personal money stuff? The answer, dear listener, is we are doing both. And what we're trying to get everyone to think about is these are not separate things. Where we get stuck or guilty or pressured or jealous or excited or whatever about money in our own lives is playing out times 60 million in this country and 8 billion in the world in different ways, and is creating this system that we have. And the reason I'm emphasizing that is, of course, the other thing going on right now in the UK is we're probably into month 2, probably week 5 or 6 of a really pretty intense heat wave and drought. It's been even more intense in Western Europe and I know in other parts of the world. And this is really, really serious stuff. So yes, before we dive into your mattress, I don't want us or anyone thinking, oh, that's trivial. The things we're going to explore today are not just about you or your decisions. They're relevant to all of us and they keep playing out. And those people listening who are more and more concerned about, well, we have to change the wider system. We have to change things. We need whatever that is. We won't get into policy right now. Unlocking money to flow in healthy directions and unlocking money to be channeled to the stuff we actually want and need plays out at every level. So yes, sorry, that was a little bit of a rant, but I feel it was important that we're not just ping-ponging from macro to micro. We're deliberately encouraging people to see that they're connected. Now tell me about your mattress.
Well, I was just going to say that I appreciate that. And I'm glad you made that connection because it wasn't something that I was necessarily aware of when we discussed going into the conversation. But it is so interesting how if you don't sort out your own inner stuff, you've got no chance of sorting out the stuff in the outside world and making a change and making a difference because everyone's carrying out the same individual patterns, which, you know, get you pretty messed up, confused and muddled around your own life. And then it's no wonder that things then just get played out on a bigger scale. And I quite hadn't realized how important that is. And it's actually quite a good sense check for me to be one of the sort of guardrails for when I do maybe get into that kind of a frenzy, let's just say, around purchase or some sort of money issue, that actually I'm someone who now sees a bit of a bigger picture. And if I don't act in a more conscious way around my own shit, then it's going to be really difficult for me to see shifts and changes in the wider world because I'm just a part of the same kind of muddled up thinking. So that's really valuable as
I'm glad
as a healing step for me on this.
Well, I'm glad it's helpful because maybe it gives us a good segue between the big topics of capitalism, consumerism, power, and this. So you're absolutely right. Individual micro money behaviors are very connected with our capacity to take a bigger stand or have impact on the world or just feel like, hey, I can say what I like or do what I like or challenge the status quo. Because if we're trapped by our own unconscious money status quo, to that extent, we're still internally oppressed. The other thing to say is there is a feedback loop. So it is hard to do radical things or make big changes, partly because we internally police ourselves, and we've talked about that, but partly because other people do have judgments and they're all carrying out the same pattern, right? So my personal actions are a little bit shaped by the wider world, but the opposite is also true. Every time I take an action, big or small, that's based on me being freer to follow what we call on this podcast, my life path, to follow my creative impulse, to follow what really feels true for me, not my internal policing. Every time I do that, it makes it a tiny, tiny bit more easy and possible for other people to do that. It changes the feel, right? So sometimes people who want to change the world think, well, what's the point? What can I do? I'm only just me and these problems are so big. But one thing we can all do with money and also without money is every time I have the consciousness and the courage to take a step that I really believe is aligned with my path or what's right or the flow of life, it does make it just a tiny bit more possible that others will do it. So yes, I hope that's helpful for people who've been following our conversations. And now we will talk about mattresses. And to some people that might sound grandiose. They might think, wow, who cares about what Shabbar spends on his mattress? How does that help the global revolution? Well, not a lot, but maybe 1/10 billionth. If we can free Shabbar up, I don't even know what the issue is. But if we can free you to just feel more freedom, more flow, more confidence with whatever the hell decision you're making, then it increases that freedom and flow in the universe, in the shared field. And even if it makes it just 1/10 billionth of a percent more possible for others to do it, that's still a good step. Over to you. Mattresses and the global revolution. How may we help?
Yeah, there's some sort of pun around springing your way to a brighter future or something.
Yes,
So
yes.
something along those lines. You know what? It's just that I caught myself entering back into a familiar pattern.
Right.
We discussed this time last year, I think the episode came out on my turmoil, is the only way I can put it, around maximizing this American Express hotel voucher that I got given, and the research and the hours that I spent looking through, like getting the best value hotel for the value of the voucher and not wanting to maximizing. And I think I must have spent several evenings on the Amex portal looking at different hotels and the prices and the combinations of, you know, breakfast and dinner and what I could do just to get the most out of this voucher without leaving money on the table. And it got to a stage where it literally was driving me crazy. And I felt like I was going slightly insane at the amount.
Let me just pause there for people who haven't listened to that. That's episode 16. It came out almost exactly a year ago, as you said, and it's called the Amex Voucher Trap. Yeah. So we might refer back to that, but that was Shabbar a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe that title needs to be changed because it probably doesn't do justice to the amount of turmoil that was actually going on. Essentially, that was just a period of really trying to maximize this value of the voucher, doing a lot of research, spending hours and hours, you know, to maybe save, 20 or 30 quid here or there. And I think you presented back to me saying, well, even if you took whatever your hourly rate is as a financial advisor and looked at the amount of time that you'd spent on doing this research, it's absolutely insane, the fact that, to save 20 or 30 quid. But there was so much that was tied up in that endeavor around maximizing the number or maximizing the value in terms of being sensible and shrewd and getting a deal and not wanting to leave money on the table. And there were all of these unconscious kind of judgments that I was making about myself. But ultimately, you get yourself into this frenzy loop of research. And
well, not everyone does. Important to say, with no judgment either. This is the point. We all have these blind spots and we all have unconscious things that get tangled with money. And one of your ways of enacting the pattern is a sort of endless, almost like micromanaging or a fixation on getting what you think is the best deal. Yeah. Other people, their pattern might be they just book a hotel and then they realize afterwards they haven't got the money to pay for it, or there might be totally different things going on. But for you, there was something about maximizing the value and not being ripped off or exploited.
And I think there's many that go along with that. But ultimately, it's almost the equivalent of sort of doom scrolling. It's like doom research.
Yes.
That happens. Now I'm buying a mattress. My wife and I sort of said, well, our mattress probably needs replacing in, 15 years, I think, since, and it's starting to sink in a bit.
Oh, dear.
My back issues are maybe sort of well known amongst the podcast listeners. And so we're like, okay, let's
buy a new mattress.
So we went into town. We went to a couple of mattress shops. We sort of had a look. We tried a few out, a few that were at the top end of the spectrum, which were probably outside of what we would want to spend, but they were nice.
Were they good? Were they comfy?
Yeah, they were comfy. And so we always said, look, we'll look in store and then we will have a look online, because generally the prices online are much cheaper than if you were buying it in the store. That was my thinking. And with hindsight, I'm actually thinking that finding one in the store that fit the budget and felt comfortable and just buying it and getting it done and dusted might have actually have been the better approach than second guessing what this mattress online that I've now researched in terms of the number of pocket springs and the foam content and all of that sort of stuff. Because the problem with buying online is that you're open to not knowing exactly how it's going to feel when you sleep on the bloody thing. And it could end up being great, or it could end up being something that it's not very comfortable. And then you've got to go through the whole hassle of, changing it and arranging a new delivery.
We're hearing a little bit of the madness now, even as you tell the story. So let me just replay what I'm understanding so far. And by the way, for those listening, I know Shabbar well. He knows me. We've worked together a long time around money stuff. So I can, with a smile on my face, talk about the money madness. And he knows I'm not judging him or poking fun. But when we start doing this work, we sometimes feel quite sensitive. We don't want to expose our money madness. We might not even be aware of it. So before we get into mattresses, just the capacity to talk about it with a smile on your face, genuinely, and with a spirit of curiosity, genuinely, and with a sense of, I'm back in a bit of a pattern that I know and it's still going on and what's going on. Even before we make a shift, that is a really positive sign. Because as we said in the very early episodes of this podcast, for most of us, much of the time, money is a taboo. Most people do not like to talk about how they do money, their funny ways with money, buying a mattress or a holiday or a meal or arguing about a bill or not doing pocket money or separate accounts with their partner or whatever the hell it is that is a thing for them. Most people don't even like to talk about it. So I just want to acknowledge simply the capacity, and maybe you compare how you were even with your ability to kind of smile and be open and curious a year or 2 or 3 ago. Even that is, I think, a very positive and healthy step. And going back to the state of the world, if more of us could have these curious, open conversations about money, and go, my goodness, what's going on here? I think that would help things move in the wider system too. So back to you and your story. What do you think about what I've said?
Yeah, I find it quite refreshing to be able to talk about these sorts of things in an open and curious way. And yeah, I'll give myself a bit of a pat on the back for having the courage to visit them. The thing that really feels like a win for me is that I can talk about these things, and by me being able to talk about them with you on a podcast, being slightly vulnerable about these quirks, I know that it helps other people, because for a lot of people, these sorts of things are completely unconscious and carrying out, and I'm carrying them out, but then I become conscious about them and then we talk about them. So I think it's good. And also it does make me chuckle, because when you start talking about it, the absurdity and the insanity sort of starts to become a bit more tangible in a way. And then it just feels a lot lighter, and you're just like, okay, yeah, I can see what I'm doing. I've been here before, and it's nice to be able to, on this occasion, quicker than I did with the Amex voucher, like catch myself and start to think, right, okay, what guardrails am I putting in now just to box this up and get it done? Because I know that the type of person that I am, it could become an endless pursuit for the next week on researching the best mattress, because I'm trying to get what I consider the best bang for my buck. That is my...
That's one of your patterns.
That's one of my patterns.
And also, and we talked about this also with holidays, you're doing the same thing, which is when you get into the best bang for my buck or the best value for my money, you get very into the sort of technical number-based specs and you forget the lived experience, because you already said, well, I might end up buying one that looks great on screen, but I haven't actually tried it and it might not be good. It's like I might spend money on a nice hotel, but I don't know if that will actually give me the experience that I want.
I think with the mattress, I think that the difference is that in terms of the hotel, I can now clearly see that I'm trying to tie up a certain human quality.
Right.
Like status, it could be connection with my wife, like the romantic side of things. I'm looking for something and I'm tying it up in the hotel. With the mattress, I think it's just all about bloody comfort. I don't think there's a human quality I'm searching for in the mattress.
Right.
I just don't want something that's gonna...
Well, I disagree. You just told us what it was.
Comfort.
You're looking for comfort.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, is the way you're choosing a mattress giving you comfort?
At the moment, it's veering into discomfort in terms of the way I'm choosing it.
That's good to notice. Again, might seem like such a trivial point if people haven't been listening for a while. But very often, just to step away from the mattress to the wider pattern, very often we chase money or try and get money or earn money or spend money or save money or worry about money because we want something, whatever, comfort, freedom, power, creativity, fun, love, whatever it is, security. But then when we look, the way that we're trying to get money to get those things is actually giving us the opposite. So what I want is a great mattress with comfort, but the way I'm going about it doesn't feel comfortable. It's quite interesting.
That is very interesting.
What I want is, money to make me feel secure, but the way I'm kind of dealing with money or earning money makes me feel insecure or makes me worry more. It's always worth noticing that. Yeah. So what did you catch? Sounds like you've caught an old pattern, which is sort of endlessly poring over whatever website comparisons. And you noticed, if I'm not careful, this will take me hours or several evenings or something.
I'm getting paralysis with the amount of choice now online.
Right.
And that's a common feature for me.
Right.
I mean, I ordered an eye mask the other day. It was 10 quid. I looked at a few and I picked one that didn't really bother me, that after using it for a few nights, it wasn't quite comfortable to use that particular eye mask. But I think with the mattress, it's the whole hassle factor of getting a mattress delivered, and if it's not the right one, etc. I think there's just a bit more headache with if the mattress turns out not to be comfortable. So I'm a bit more invested in making sure I can make the best decision possible.
Okay. So I think there's two things really this podcast is about. There's one is whatever's going on with the mattress. In money terms, we call it detective work and trying to uncover what's going on there. And the other is the level of what it's like to be a little bit recognizing the same pattern from a year ago, but not be quite in the same place, maybe a little bit more able to see it and spot it. We'll come back to that second one. Let's do just a tiny bit of detective work around the mattress. And then let's talk about what it's like to recognize, oh, here I am with the same pattern a year later, but it's never quite the same. From everything you've said, I'm not a financial expert, nor am I a money expert, nor am I a mattress expert. Everything you said is the most important thing for you right now is comfort and not buying something that you then decide isn't comfortable. Is that?
Yeah, I would say so.
So if that's true, what I don't understand is why you're not buying a mattress that you can actually try out.
Yeah,
I just don't understand it.
Right. So this is a great question.
I mean, it's not a great question. It's like, but Shabbar, I'm your mate. And if you want a comfortable mattress, buy a mattress that you know is comfortable.
Yes. So yes. I'm looking for a mattress that was in my initial budget.
Okay.
Which I'd set. So probably around £550 for a mattress.
Yeah.
And so me and my wife decided that we would find it online once we'd gone to the stores and seen the sort of thing that we liked, and see if we could find it online within our budget.
So let's just follow. Have you found, forget about the money for a moment. And again, to all the listeners, you will be familiar if you've listened before. One of the first steps in detective work is we separate out the number from what it is I really want in my life. And what I want in my life might be something big, like I want freedom and creativity, or I want to write a novel, or I want to spend time with my children while they're young, or I want to create this new business. The thing that I want is a kind of an impulse or a deeper thing. And then there's a number that gets in the way. So forget about your budget for a moment. Another thing we always say on the podcast is we're not stupid about money, so we won't pretend you have infinite budget. Have you found and tried a mattress that you thought, oh, this is a good, comfortable mattress?
We did.
And how much was it?
So there were two. I think one was sort of £1,400.
Right.
And there was one that was around £850. Those are the two that I can remember.
So my budget that I made up, it's a number that I made up. It's not that you only have £550 in the world, I'm assuming.
That's absolutely correct. It's a number I'm anchored to, I think you could put it.
Okay. So again, let's notice as a number you anchored. Now, people might think, well, you're talking about a mattress, first world problems. When we talk about investing in climate solutions or climate prevention or feeding the homeless or a million other things, governments will say, well, we haven't got the money, or we've got this much money, or we create a number, then we're anchored to it. And it often shuts down a more intelligent conversation. Not that you spend infinite amount on everything, but that if something's really important, maybe there are actually ways to do it. So you made up a number of £150. You've now tried up two mattresses that you think are really comfortable. One of them is £300 more, and one of them is about £850 more. And in your mind, you decided, well, I cannot buy either of those. Is this right?
I wouldn't say I cannot. I would prefer not to.
I prefer not to.
I would prefer to stick closer to my original budget.
Okay. And how many hours, and this is back to the old pattern. So instead of going, well, you know what, maybe mattresses cost a bit more these days than I thought because I haven't bought one for 14 years.
Yeah.
right? So maybe my ballpark of 550 was a bit out and I'll spend 850 and bosh, it's done. You now spend quite a lot of time trying to get the comfort of your 850 or 1400 one for the figure that you made up and are now fixated on. Am I being unfair at any point? Because tell me if I am. Okay.
I mean, the only thing that I would say that the number isn't made up because that's like a home investment amount, like the money that we have available for like home stuff. So it's not set in stone because, like you said, it's not the only money in the world, but maybe there's certain stuff that's tied in with having a budget and, okay, well, this is the amount that you've got to spend on this. And therefore you need to try and stick as closely as possible to that. So there's an identity in keeping to a budget as well.
Well, that's interesting. It makes me think actually we should do a little mini series on budgets and budgeting. I think that'd be helpful because you've named two things. One is, again, there might be a reality, right? Most of us have to budget in some form. Some are more organized, some are less organized, but most of us don't have infinite money. But the other thing you said is interesting is there's an identity
I feel like
connected with being someone who sticks to my budget. That's different.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm playing this out, and I'm remembering a client conversation that I had with someone who really wanted these curtains, and I was like, just go and buy the bloody curtains. And it feels like this is a kind of role reversal because it's like, well, if you found a mattress and it, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to last you 10 years. Like, what are you getting so caught up in?
It's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting question. And again, you look at government policy, and if it's going to cost X million to whatever, take the homeless off the streets, why wouldn't you do it? And I know there's complex arguments, and I know there are departmental budgets, but actually there is an analogy because governments at macro scale find it very hard to invest in things that are genuinely for the future and preventative. So if we just take a little segue, and I'm not saying that your mattress causes your bad back, I'm not saying that. But clearly, if I have a really good mattress, it probably helps my back. So what would it be worth to make sure?
Yeah.
Or to even increase by 10% the chance that my back's fine? Yeah. What's that worth to me? Okay, let's dive in a little bit more.
Can I just add something else in, which on the flip side, for me, a healthy way of approaching this would be saying, well, I've got 550 or whatever to spend on a mattress. That's what I feel is a comfortable amount, and I'm happy to spend that. Pick a mattress. Don't worry about it as much. Let it come, and it could be totally fine. And you could have a great mattress for that amount and be very comfortable. And if it's not, just then you've got to face the fact that there might be a bit of discomfort in exchanging it for another one. I feel that could be equally as good an approach to have if I was able to step into that kind of space. Because it, you know, like we were saying, I think there's two options here for me available. It's like spend the 800 quid, you know, you're in the shop there and then, just get it done. You've saved yourself a load of time, or just feel comfortable and confident that, okay, well, I'm going to go home and I'm going to find one for 550. It's still going to probably be good because you're not like
the new mattress.
The new mattress. You're still going to pick a decent one. It might be a bit of interest to see whether it turns out to be as good as the other one. It could be better. Who knows? But there is an inability to have trust in that process of, I will then deal with it and I'm okay with the fact of having to give it back, because they all come with 100-night policy of, you know, try it and this, that, the other.
Oh, right. So all of them I can get to try anyway.
Yeah. All the online ones, what they give you a 60 or 100-night sleep policy.
Right. So whether I spend 550 or 1400, I get to try it. And if it's great, I keep it. And if not, I change my plan.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, the place that I'm not at is, I feel like I'm not quite ready for the hassle of getting one and returning it. For me, that just feels like too much hassle.
So what you do is you choose the hassle of not deciding, and you choose the hassle of being paralyzed, and you choose the hassle of spending endless nights.
I'm choosing rather than spend the extra 300, which I could have done at the store yesterday.
Or just buying a 550 mattress.
Exactly. But the 550 is the unknown option. So I could go with the known option. It feels great. I'm not going to have any issues. I'm not going to have to return it unless, you know, there was a malfunction in the springs or something like that. But yeah, there's not the willingness to just go and do that. But on the same token, I'm like not willing to deal with the hassle. So I'm caught in a bind.
You are caught in a bind. And how's that working for you?
Not great. And I'm also now thinking that the listeners are going to think that I'm absolutely fucking mad.
So what I want to say, thank you for sharing that last bit.
And if anyone can relate to this, please let us know so I don't feel like I'm the only loony around town.
Well, what I want to say, and I said it already, the point is you are absolutely mad, and it's okay because we all are, because we all get in these strange tangles with this thing that we've made up called money. And other people, what we often find on the workshops that I run, and by the way, listeners, there's a workshop coming up on September 17th for 4 days. So if you're interested, check out my website, timothymalnick.com, and you come on the workshop. And what you'll find is we're all mad with money, but just in different ways. And what you're doing, Shabbar, as I've already said, because I really want to appreciate that, is A, you're more and more aware of your patterns, which really helps. And B, you're more and more actually open to sharing them and risking some people might judge you. They might judge you, but that's on them, and more curious. And what you're noticing regarding the mattress is there's a deeper pattern. There's something about how you choose, because it is a choice, to stay in a bind or a tension which isn't comfortable, rather than just make a decision that you know will give you comfort one way or the other, because either you're going to spend, but also will give you a bit of discomfort, because I think this is the thing I'm noticing. If I spend $850, I get the comfort of a decision and a good mattress, but I have to deal with a bit of discomfort that I spent more than my budget. And if I go for an unknown $550, I get the comfort that I've made a decision and stuck with my budget, but I may have to suffer the discomfort of it may not be a great mattress and I have hassle returning it.
Perfectly put.
Yeah. So what you seem to me to be doing is avoiding discomfort or feeling you don't want to deal with either the discomfort of spending too much in your view or of hassle. And the way you go about avoiding discomfort sounds to me like it creates discomfort.
Makes me sound even more insane.
And we all are.
Yeah.
The way we go back to the global economy, the way we go about creating an economy that we say is going to be good for everyone is driving the system over the cliff. So we're crashing the ecology. So again, it's a deep pattern we're talking about. The way we go about getting what we genuinely need, you want comfort and don't want discomfort, but the way we go towards those things often creates the very thing we're trying to avoid or minimize. I
also think that there is an element of resistance around spending the money on something, which I'm like, do you know what? It would be great. I'd rather spend that money on a holiday or on something else. So I think there's also this element, maybe begrudgingly, of spending money on something that is a necessity and would be quite important, but it doesn't appear at the top of my list of things that I would like. So I think there is an element of that.
Yeah, but then choose the $550 mattress and get it done. But you're also avoiding. So okay, we're not going to. I'm conscious of our time. We're not going to kind of go deeply into it. But I'll make a few points. Point one, and this isn't about advice, but we did do a series, didn't we, on sorting out your spending values, your money values, I think from memory. And we did a little exercise on prioritizing your values. One of my values is I will always try and spend more on my bed than my car, on the basis that I spend much more time in my bed than in my car. And I believe it makes a bigger difference to my quality of life to have a good bed. And by the way, I don't spend much on my car, so I don't want anyone to think I've got some lavish bed. I think the joke is I don't spend much on my car. But it's different. People are different. Personally, for me, we spend roughly a third of our lives in bed.
Yeah.
I would invest in a bed. Yeah. But I absolutely respect your right to choose not to do that. Where you're stuck is you're not quite able to not do it. If you just said, you know what, Tim, 500 quid's my limit. I'll buy a mattress, 500 quid. That's it. That's fine. That's a clear money choice. But so I think the deeper thing is you have some idea of not wanting to face discomfort in both directions. And the way you're doing that is keeping you stuck and uncomfortable.
I think so. Almost feels like, you're in a no-win situation.
Yeah, well, that's where you're putting yourself. And we do.
Yeah.
Again, just to make some analogies so people don't think it's just a Shabbar, people will say, well, I'm in a job that I hate, but I'm doing it so that in the future I can have a life that I love. Well, I'm not sure that makes sense. I'm stuck. I'm doing something I don't really want. And what I really want is fun and travel and holidays and freedom. But right now I'll make the choice to keep myself somewhere stuck and unhappy so that in the future I can get something.
Can I ask a question on that kind of principle? Is like, where does the idea of sacrificing come in? Because people they'll sacrifice something today for tomorrow. And sometimes that can be a helpful thing to do, and sometimes it would be unhelpful. And maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Because some people might frame that and say, but Tim, I'm happy to make the sacrifice. Or
well, I think that's the key word. I think it's a deeper question, and maybe we do a podcast on that. So we'll do something on budgeting and something on sacrificing. I think the difference is, do I feel happy or resentful while I'm making it?
Right. I think that's a good.
I mean, simply put. So if I wake up every day and I go, I really don't love what I'm doing, but I'm really saving towards this, and I feel okay. Because I feel like I'm doing that and it's meaningful and I've made the choice and I'm conscious. I'm not doing it because I have to. I do it because I choose to. Yeah. And it's conscious and I know I'm free to leave, but I really choose not to. And I somehow feel wholesome. That seems to me potentially a healthy sacrifice. It's when I, sort of moan and guilt trip my kids about the sacrifices I'm making for them and moan about my job and count the hours, and that the future is not something I'm genuinely moving towards. It's almost like a projection of my freedom. That's where I think I need to be careful.
Fair enough. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah. So we've covered along a lot. I think there's two sets we could make, because I also want to come back to really honor what it's like to notice, as we all do. We have the same patterns. They don't disappear in a year, but we get clearer on them, right? So I think you're much clearer and quicker to notice that you're in this mattress conundrum than when you were in the hotel conundrum a year ago. Is that fair?
Oh yeah. I mean, I haven't yet gone down 4 nights of researching mattresses.
Right.
I think it could get there without intervention. But I think I said I was going to put some I call them guardrails.
Yeah.
And that's just an honest look.
Yeah.
And for me, it's almost like, it's one of those well, are you going to look back next year or even in 6 months? And whichever route, is it really going to matter that much?
It's a good question. Yeah.
And so that's one that's like, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to really care, in which route I took, and be happy with that and have trust in that decision and just go either way rather than, and I think ask myself, do I want to spend the next 3 nights researching mattresses?
Also good question.
And because that's the thing I learned from last time. So I'm well aware that I will be making a decision this evening.
Oh, it's exciting. Let us know. We look forward to finding out.
Yeah, I'm not, but it was interesting to play out the process in this environment.
Yeah. So as I said, there's 2 levels at least to this. And one level I want, again, to draw people's attention to is this. When we do money work, we go from just being stuck in stuff that we don't see. Then we notice, then we can make real shifts. And we've seen that particularly on the workshop, and you've seen that in various groups and things we've done. And a little bit we've done in previous episodes. And part of it is it's not a one-shot deal. And it's not unusual that we go, gosh, here I am again. I'm still stuck here, or I still struggle to spend here, or I'm still worrying about this. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That seems to be how our growth and development happens. So if I can be back, and I'm saying this to the audience, not just to you, Shabbar, if I can be back at the same sort of place, but with more openness, curiosity, humor, and a bit quicker to move through it, that's not a bad place to be. That's the first thing. The other thing is, the more I come back to the same place, I often notice 2 things. This is my experience. The first is I start to notice core dynamics, tensions, processes that I get to work with in my life. So for me, a big one in my life has been failure and success. And when I first had to work with it, it was really big and really emotional and massive. And it's not like it's completely gone away, but it becomes more and more subtle. So for you, there's something about getting a good deal or optimizing value or getting it right or not being made a fool of, or there's something there. And that might be, for whatever reason, something that you keep coming back to in your life, but it will become more and more light and more subtle. And everyone listening, you will have, in my experience, 2 or 3 core dances, patterns that tend to play out. So if you can start to notice them and go, oh, it's that one again, that can be great, even if it doesn't shift. It will become lighter, more subtle, more quick to recognize. The other thing that happens is the quicker you get to recognize, oh, it's this one again, then often you notice some subtlety around it that's new. So for you today, and it's what I'm hearing, Shabbat, I don't know if I'm correct. As you know, I never make a diagnosis. I just reflect. The familiar thing is, oh yeah, I'm sort of paralyzed trying to get the right deal, the perfect deal, optimize the money. Okay, so you can sit with that one. The new thing is there's something about comfort and the willingness to, the wanting comfort and the unwillingness to suffer discomfort. And so if we were taking a step, and you can say it, you can try it or sit with it or just let us know, regular listeners will know there's often a second step when we do detective work as we come to these interesting sentences. And if you don't know, listen back to them from previous episodes. I might be exploring something like, I'm comfortable with and without sticking to my budget. And I might also try, I'm uncomfortable and it's okay. In other words, I might, through this story, explore my relationship at a deeper level to comfort and discomfort as human experiences, not just about money or mattresses.
Yeah. I mean, that's the word comfort, the more I sort of think about it and ponder on it, is a central theme to the way I arrange my life and the decisions that I make. Comfort, convenience. And so the whole returning a mattress feels inconvenient and tied to my level of comfort and stress and all of that sort of stuff. So it's interesting.
So just to complete that, if that makes sense, and very often that's what will happen is through one small example where people will say, oh yeah, that is really important in my life, comfort, convenience. Then perhaps the thing to really open up to is the other side. I am stressed and uncomfortable and it's okay. And when we really feel that, because this work, as you know, Shabbar, is kind of more a body, a physiological thing than a belief. When I really see the truth that as a human being here on this planet, here alive in this body, I do experience stress and discomfort all the time. And no amount of sticking to my budget or having the perfect mattress or having to deal with customer service, none of that will ever remove the truth of my discomfort and my stress. That can also be strangely comforting.
All the puns.
But does it make any sense to your experience? I'm not trying to just be clever with words.
And this is the beauty of this work, that we're starting from a place of me having a crisis around picking a mattress and all of the things that are sort of going on. But on a very human, almost like existential level, this is about comfort and inconvenience.
And your relationship to
and my relationship to them, and also an element of tying certain things up with a number.
Yes.
Around the budget and stuff like that, which is so it's very complex. There's a lot of stuff sort of going within this transaction, and so much information is available about my own dance, but my own areas that need developing.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's so fascinating for me, and it's why I love this podcast, Tim.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Is that a good place for us to stop and wrap up for this week, or do you have any last takeaways for listeners?
No, other than to thank you on my behalf and people listening for being willing to share honestly this example and be willing to your money dance, which we all have, and these tangles that we all get into. You know, you're offering it out there and some people may be judging. So the thing I will leave everyone listening with is thank you and respect for what you shared, and a reminder to anyone listening that if you have had any judgments during listening to this episode, particularly in Shabbar sharing, a suggestion that in the spirit of the work, any judgment you have is probably mirroring back to you something that's important for your own growth and is in fact nothing to do with Shabbar and his life path.
I'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.